Good morning, everybody. Welcome to 1 Million Cups. So glad to see everybody. I hope you're enjoying this beautiful weather. Um, Glad to have you. We've got a great presenter today. We have Glenn Crummey with Edgemaster. It's a pleasure to have him. He's going to come and talk a little bit about his business. So, without further ado, let us welcome Glenn.
I thank you and good morning to each one of you. I thank you for your time to let me show you what I have. And um, I, I live in Baxley, Georgia, and my name is Glenn Crummey. And what I have today is something I have come up with. I came to work for a few mornings. I've seen people working, doing sidewalks, the city workers, and how they work and how they do their job. And I watched it 2 or 3 mornings and I thought, well, there's got to be a better way of doing this. And so I kind of got to thinking and putting things together and just, and what I come up with is this little, in a few minutes, we'll see this little video of how it works, but it's such a machine that can do so much work so much faster than the way things is being done now that I feel like it's something that's really needed. I think it would save people money, the cities particular, and it would just do so much more work, so much faster, time, money, just it would help in so many ways. At this time, if we could, we'll start the video, and as we go along, I'll ask her to stop and I'll kind of tell you what it's doing and why it's doing it, and we'll give it a try. Thank you. If you would start the video, please. Okay, if you'll stop right there, hold the video. If you'll see, what I've done, people, cities, always they use shovels and a bunch of labor, 5 or 6 workers. They dig it out with a shovel and then they pick it up with their and shove it into a bucket and haul it off and haul it away. But this machine, as you can see right there, it'll go along and edge the side of the sidewalk. And we're doing both sides at one time, or we can do one side at one time, and it'll sweep it up into the bucket itself. So we're just got one operator. Okay, go ahead, please. Okay, it's right there. You'll see, hold just a minute. It's sweeping the sidewalk and edging it at the same time. I've tried to come up with, and I'm sure it can be improved on if I'm able to license it to a company, maybe do a better job than what I'm doing, but the principle would stay the same. To sweep the top of the sidewalk, edge both sides of it, and sometimes you'll have a sidewalk that adjoins to the curb where you would just edge one side and sweep it up. So it's versatile to how you use it there. Okay, go ahead. Okay, hold right there. If you'll see, you can, when you get through your sidewalk, you can pull out into the street and side shift it to one side to the curb. It'll lap over the curb. If you'll notice, in a lot of cities, the street curb has grown over. The grass has grown over the curb, but it's so much labor and time for cities to do this, they just don't do it, or do the more important areas of the city, and they just leave that undone a lot of times. But this machine can do it so much faster, almost as fast as you can walk. You can edge the back side of it and sweep the top of it, just no time at all. Okay, go ahead, please. Okay, hold right there, please. Where it says about the herbicide, while you're edging, if you want to, you can have tanks put on there that would spray where you're edging on both sides. It would spray like Roundup or something that would slow the regrowth coming back, which may cut down on the times you would have to do this. Okay, go ahead, please. Okay, hold right there. This here, you'll see a time lapse in just a minute. I timed my machine versus about 7 workers right there. And you'll see in just a minute the time clock as it's running. But also, if you'll, in this video right here, you'll see the workers, a lot of them is out to the edge of the street. And as the video goes, you'll see traffic just going by. And that it's a real safety thing to keep that many workers off the side of the street, because it's like this is a 4-lane road right here, and there's a lot of traffic that's running very fast, and safety is number one. So if we can get these guys away from that street, that would be a big benefit. Okay, go ahead, please. Okay, right here we've done 100-foot of sidewalk, and they got 6 employees. It took them pretty close to 12 minutes. As you see, a little bit further, my machine can do it in about 2 minutes. The same thing that all these workers is doing. Okay, go ahead. Okay, if you would hold right there, please. Then the wires you see right there on that's doing the edging, I've changed these a little bit since this video, but I felt like I had to have something that would not chip the sidewalk when you turn around at the end and go to a different direction. If you had a cutting blade or something, it would chip the sidewalk every time. So I had to have something flexible that would do the job, but also not mar up the sidewalk or not chip it. So that's the reason why the wire brushes is there. Okay, go ahead. As you can see, one operator there, he's going along. We're doing both sides. Okay, hold right there. You see your side shifting to one side right there to get over behind that curve. You just got one little button and you just side shift it over. Okay, go ahead. Okay, hold there for just a second. Let me say this. If you'll notice, well, won't show it right there on that, but these on the front things sticking out on the corners right there, these things that's sticking out right there, that's like when you're on a sidewalk, sometimes you may have a mailbox or a post or something, and if it were to get off a little bit, these things here cut at an angle so it would kick it off, and instead of just hitting solid and throwing the driver forward in the seat if he's not really paying really close attention to what he's doing. Okay, go ahead. Okay, that's good right there. This right here, it can be it can be emptied over to some designated area, or also if he didn't have no areas in the city, sometimes like a little flatbed small pickup can follow, and he can dump it over on the back of it if he needed to dump it and then take off again. So all you do is just hang it straight down and shake it, and it unloads it. You don't have to have no special tools or nothing. Just pick it, let it drop straight down, and just shake, and the front will kindly open up and drop everything out. Okay, go ahead. Them right there, hole right there. Them rollers I put after you do it over and over and over on a sidewalk, sometimes if you're not careful, you'll be marking up the sidewalks, and people don't want that. So I've put these non-marking wheels on the bottom of it to keep that from happening, so it won't be kind of looking bad, because you'll be doing it over and over, and it won't mark up the sidewalk. Okay, go ahead. Thank you. This right here, this plate right there, it'll hook to most any machine, whether it's a Case, Bobcat, John Deere. Most plates like this is universal. So if one city had one kind or another city had another kind of skid steer, it shouldn't be no big deal just to hook up to it, because you would have like a hand control that you would do the side shift with. It would be like on a separate little set of wires, so you could turn your motors on and off to do the edging. But the hookup to the machine is real universal, so it wouldn't have to have no particular machine. And most cities have some kind of skid steer that they move dirt around or pick up stuff. So most of them will have it, and it'll hook right up. Okay, go ahead. Okay, right there, it says patent pending. I do have a patent on the machine, so it is patent. Whenever I had the lawyer to do the title, the search, before I started this, he done the patent search, I guess you might say. And the closest thing that's available on the market to what I have is one of them little machines with the handlebars and the gasoline motor that people have. They push along the sidewalk, that does the little edging on the side. So as on the market today, that's the closest thing to what I have. So, which is, mine is a tremendous leap forward from that. But I thought also, besides cities, it would be something like maybe Army bases or Navy bases that has a lot of sidewalks. They could use it. Most sidewalks is 60 inches, and majority of them, whether it's here or Oklahoma or whatever, most sidewalks are 60 inches. But if you had an Army base or something like that that had a 148 inches, you would build that machine to their size there was needed. So, but majority of sidewalks in most places is 60 inches, and that's what mine's built on that I have. All right, go ahead. Okay, try and answer your questions if I could.
So Glenn, I have a couple of questions. So you said you didn't have any direct competitors. So what is your competitive advantage? What sets you apart from the thing that you push? And there isn't, so John Deere or anybody doesn't have a device or an attachment for a skid steer that's similar to yours? You're the only one?
Yes, ma'am, that I can find. I do not know of one that's even close to what I have. The way the cities do it now, some of them have a little tractor with a blade that a cut, but they got to go back and dig it out. The way it's being done is very time consuming. And, and so a lot of times if it's neglected and not done for the fact it's just so time consuming, which relates to expense, sending workers out there to do it, it's just so expensive. They'll just leave it. If you'll notice a lot of cities you go through, whether you're going in or coming out of the cities, the curbs just growed over, neglected, but it's just, it comes to a money thing and they just can't, they got other things they're doing that's work they need done more than this. But this right here would just make the city, doing all the places would make it look so much more nicer. But I don't know of nothing that's close to what I have.
Approximately how much does your unit cost?
I think this unit, in my thinking, should retail for about 7,000 or 8,000, which is very small money, I think, for a city to commit to do it for what it'll do for the return. I think it's a very small, because most cities will have a skid steer of one name brand or another. So this much money is really, when you compare it to the salaries of the workers, that really no money. But if a person just say if a company would buy it, when they sell that machine, it's like a car or anything, it's going to tear up. So the customer, you're tied to that customer to go back to get your parts, get your brushes, anything that wore out, or if the machine just wore out, you go back to them. So that's okay. Anything else?
Well, I'm just wondering about some of the smaller towns that may not have as much revenue to spend. Do you offer any kind of leasing or lease to own or anything of that nature, or is it all just direct sales?
Well, I have not sold none or leased none. My hope to do would be, I would like to license it to a company to build. I had thought about, just selling outright to a company, but I feel very comfortable that once it got out to the public and got going, that it would take off. I feel more confident that it's going to take off once it got out there. So I'd rather lease it. I don't really want to build them myself for sale. I don't want to get into the manufacturing myself, but I would like to license it to a company, and that's kind of my preference.
Have you looked into perhaps selling to someone like a John Deere or somebody of that nature where it would readily fit onto their equipment?
Yes, ma'am. I have tried to contact, and that's one of the reasons for me coming today, is I have really tried to contact and send out, I had brochures made up of it with where they can go to the video and look at it. And for whatever reason, it's beyond me, I've not had one reply. And I can accept bad replies. If you tell me this ain't no good, or you need to change this, or this is why this ain't going to work, I can accept that. But I've got no replies, and I have contacted all the major dealers. I say dealers like Bobcat, Case, JCB, all these through emails, sending out brochures, and I'm getting no response. And I don't understand.
It could be you're just not getting to the right person. Are you only offering it as you're willing to license it to them, or are you willing to sell it outright to them?
I'd rather license it to them, but if I got a response, I would entertain selling, but I'd rather license. I feel good and confident that it's something that's really needed out there.
I hear you, but larger companies may not want to do a licensing deal. They may want to buy it outright as an attachment that works on their equipment. It gives them another option, for, the, just like a lot of the options come on the back of machines, it would give them another option of another way to sell. It sounds like you're not hitting the right people in the companies though. So you might need to do a little bit more research on who makes those decisions for those companies and go after those people. I think Ron did have a good point in the chat when he was talking about if you could get develop something that might be a little bit smaller, maybe a little bit more lighter weight, or something where landscaping businesses or people who buy their own stuff for at home, that would be a good feature for like their driveways and all that. But would have more competition, because I know I have one that was made by Husqvarna that has their own little edger, but if you could do it like an attachment to a lawnmower, a riding lawnmower, or something of that nature. Because the other ones, you're right, you have to push behind, then you have to go back and clean up and all of that, because I have to do that, even with my edger. You have to do all that follow-up work. If you could do something like I have a riding lawnmower that would fit onto my riding lawnmower, that it would do the kinds of things that you're talking about. Not only will it go down an edge, but like it would suck it up into my bagger. That for me as a homeowner, I would go, oh yeah, you really have cut down my personal work now, instead of me having to hire someone or go out there and edge it and then clean it up and on all that. So if you could also come up with a version that would work for the homeowner, it's not as, it doesn't do all the bells and whistles necessarily, but if it would edge it and clean it up at the same time, oh yeah, I'd be in line.
That's a good idea. I have not thought about that, but that is something to think about. I appreciate the information.
Because there are a lot of people who, the landscaping companies, think about how much less time it would take them, how many more people they could get to if they could just swipe down, go, and it cleans it up and puts it into their lawnmower at the same time. Oh my goodness.
Right. It would be just you're saying a smaller scale than what I'm looking at or what I have. The only thing that I would really have to figure out, or one of the main things, was when it sucked the dirt up, because if it was very much, it would fill the bag up, which that dirt's real heavy. And for a lawnmower, you would load it pretty fast unless it was done real regular, where you only was like maintaining it more than really, if you kept going back over and over, where you wasn't getting that much debris in your bag, that would probably work.
I can handle emptying the bags, and if it would be that simple to clean up and keep up, I would do it every time I cut my grass.
Okay.
And you could have the landscaping businesses that would do it every time, because that's usually part of their service anyway. But most of the time you see them out with most of them don't even have an edger, they just have their string trimmer going down, but then they have to do the cleanup and all that, and the blowing and all that after. I'm just thinking that's another niche that would make people their life a whole lot easier, and right. Especially landscaping businesses, because I mean, down at the beach, our lawnmower stopped working, and they're saying, oh, it's at least a 3-week wait to get your grass cut down, because people are just, a lot of people now with the COVID stuff, they're taking more pride and care and concern in their home than they did before. So it would be just, it'd be a nice little feature for them, but also for homeowners. They have large properties that like to get out and, they have a riding lawnmower and like to do it themselves.
Right.
Just nice little attachment to the front of my riding lawnmower. Oh yeah, I'm there.
Okay, well, I appreciate the information and the thought. I've never thought about it on a small scale like that.
Okay. If you're going to do the small scale, just make sure that it's easy to attach to the lawnmower. That's so right. I usually mow the grass at my house, and so if it was very complicated, that would probably detour me some from using, but I think doing it on a smaller scale would definitely would be a great option, a great avenue for you to explore. So what about like larger institutions like Campbell University? That is a private school. Have you reached out to places like that, or maybe the Goodyear. I don't know if they call that Kelly Springfield or Goodyear here in Fayetteville. Places like that. Have you reached out to them to show them your device?
No, ma'am. I have not went to like individuals like this. I guess my train of thought was if I went to there again, we'd go back and say Bobcat. If I went to a company like that, they're already selling attachments to about every city. They know the key guy to talk to get to sell something or to rent something to them. They know these guys already. They're usually, they know who it is. So my thinking was that if I sold it to a company, they would know the key guy, say, look, this is what I have, this is what it'll do. You should try it. Where I'm shooting in the dark as far as trying to find a key guy. These companies, they know the key guy to go to. And I guess that's what I was thinking.
If I understood you correctly, you're looking for a manufacturer, or you're looking to sell the rights to this to these companies that already sell the farm equipment and implements, right? You're not looking to sell to the public. You're looking to sell to the people who manufacture and sell the equipment, right?
That's my kind of train of thought in thinking about it, is selling to a manufacturer, because I know they'll need to do some research and development on what I have to make it. I know they look at safety and all sorts of things, but where my principle of what I'm doing is the same, but they may have to modify and change some things. So they would look at with a new set of eyes. And so that's what I'm looking for, a business to manufacture it. I would consider selling it. I prefer to license it, but I would consider the thought of selling.
But if I'm going to be one of those companies that I take your idea, I do all the research and development to, like you said, safety and all that, because yes, they're going to have to abide by all that stuff, and then want to have a competitive advantage over my other people like the John Deere's or whoever in the world, I'm thinking I'm going to want to buy it outright. So you need to put thought into if you're willing to do that or not, because if I'm going to go through all of that and I'm going to manufacture it and I want a competitive edge, I'm probably not going to license it. I mean, I probably want to buy the plans outright. Just a thought.
Right, and that's something I would consider if we got far enough along in the conversation. I would consider that. Naturally, I would like get a patent attorney to help me put the deal together that's fair for the other people, fair for me, so everybody comes out with what they want. I would consider that. Yes. Okay, got somebody.
Hey, Glenn.
Good morning.
Thanks for your presentation. And Cindy had the right question. I was going to ask the same one too. Is that you're not manufacturing any of these devices?
I built one demo.
That's the prototype.
Prototype.
Yeah, you got the prototype, and that's what you're marketing to manufacturing companies, trying to lure them in to giving your product a second look. And how are you marketing? Maybe that's when you say you're sending out brochures, Glenn. What type of brochures are you sending out?
I'm sending out a real nice color brochure that shows different pictures, like it's on the video, that they can look at it, but also on the back page, it has where you can go watch the video, and it tells about it. And all my information about me to contact me.
And you sent this out to manufacturers?
I went on YouTube. Not YouTube, eBay, every place I could find, they had a manufacturer that I would look up attachments, and I pulled them up and I got them all their email addresses and then their physical address, wrote it down, sent them all out brochures. I sent them emails, attachment to the video, everything that I can think about.
Did you put a price point on your marketing material?
No, sir, I did not do that.
Okay.
I did not do that.
I mean, that was the thought too, was maybe, you know, the price point was a little too much. But I think with your device, it's the way you have it configured now, it's one size fits one specific width of sidewalk.
Using the majority of the sidewalks is that size. That's
Yeah.
correct.
64. So
64.
if there's a smaller sidewalk, then your piece of equipment wouldn't be able to do any of that work.
Well, like I was speaking earlier, just say if the military base, they was 48 inches.
Yeah.
That's all, they ain't gonna do nobody but theirs. So you would build it for them. But most cities, if you'll measure 60 inches is the sidewalk. So my machine is 64 inches, which gives times for the edging brushes or space for them on each side.
My next question, probably my last one, is when I look at this machine, I look at it in operation, Glenn, what's the distance that this machine could run before you've got to empty the machine?
Okay, that goes back. In a way of looking at it, I would want to look at my machine as a maintenance machine. And saying that, like a city about 30 miles from here, they've neglected some sidewalks that goes through the, say, the poor side of town. And the dirt is just, I mean, fourth of the way across. You would, the first time they would take a bucket, like a 72-inch bucket or something, and scrape that sidewalk, because you would fill this bucket up real fast.
Yeah.
But once they took and cleaned it, and then they went and edged it, if they don't do it in a month or two or whatever they do, how often they do it, they could go a long ways, because they wouldn't. But that initial cleanup would have to be done with a bucket, because some places is really neglected. I mean, it just looks bad. But I feel like the reason it's like that, because they have to pay them workers so much that it's so time consuming. And that's what I want to get around with my machine. All that time, which relates to money, that they don't want to put into it.
I see your point, Glenn. I do. And in the chat box, there was a comment made about city managers would be very reluctant to put the low skilled workers out of jobs. I know that's true, because when city services look to outsource a service, especially, and I'll give you an example, waste management started to take over trash collections from municipalities, the ones that already had trash trucks, that already had trash workers, and those workers were invested with the municipalities. So that was part of the sticking point on the contracts, is what to do with those workers. So yes, that is a valid point. I know that. I've seen that happen. But I come back to my original question of how long does your device, it's going to have to be emptied. And with that, you're probably going to have a dump truck probably close to it, or some truck device where you can empty that waste.
That's correct. And that goes back to if after the initial hard stuff is done, if it's used as just a maintenance for just edging a little, it should go a pretty good distance.
Okay.
Once it's done the first time, then it should go pretty, because you're not going to get that much. You're just trimming it more than anything. You're not really scooping up loads of dirt as you go along after the first time.
Okay.
And to a point you made about the money, I think you made a point about the dollar amount. How I arrived at this, I've looked at sweepers. See, this initially was a sweeper to start with, which would sweep the sidewalk. But then I gave thought to adding these other pieces to it. And you can buy a brand new sweeper. There's a company called JCT or something in California for $2,000, $2,500. Now, Bobcat or somebody, they want $5,000 for theirs. They're their name brand. So I'm thinking that you could put a big company for less than $1,000. You could add all these hydraulic motors and switches and stuff and hydraulic lines that would turn these things on and off for less than $1,000. So that's why I kind of was thinking 7,000 as a price. That's how I arrived at
Okay.
my thinking of it, you know, compared to a straight broom, brand new, and they're making money at that price. But if less than 1,000, they can put these on there. That's how I come up with 7,000. I mean, what's your thought on that? Is that too far out or not far enough out compared to them prices?
I think it goes into your market research, what you're talking about with your machine. And I don't think there's not another machine like that that's on the market. But I look at your machine and I know I'm going to have a Bobcat to make it work.
That's right.
So I'm paying 7,000 for the machine. Then I got to buy a Bobcat. Then I got to attach it. Then I got to train a worker. And depending on how bad my sidewalks are, I'm going to have some loader close by where I can empty it.
The first time, most cities do have a Bobcat or a skid steer as a general.
They do.
And so I'm thinking the worker, there again, you'd have to train the worker, but I think he should catch on pretty well. He's sitting in a seat like I am, and he's just sitting there running them controls. And it's like I run a backhoe on my farm. You get the feel of it. So if you're not straight on the sidewalk, you get the feel of it. I think the normal person should catch on, a normal worker, pretty fast, I would think. If he's run that Bobcat or skid steer ever before, he should get the feel of this pretty fast.
Yeah.
I have a question about the price point. So you said 7,000, but you also said that it could do different things. So it had the ability to spray herbicides and pesticides. Is that 7,000? Does that include that, or is that in addition to?
That I have not I put that in my patent whenever I patented to make sure I covered that area, but I have not put it on there. But they do make where you can put saddle tanks on it. That would not be included in the 7,000. And then you would put little lines down to spray out while you was edging. The lines would spray out, but that's not included in that. And one other thing in the video that where you're doing the timing, you can see the dust coming out front of the machine. They do also make a dust tank, a little water tank that'll spray some mist if the dust concerned you. You know, if you was out in the open, the wind blows it away, it's no big thing. But if you got to a place where you had to have it, you can get a water tank that'll spray and keep the dust down. But them two things would not be included. This is the base, my thinking of the base price for the machine.
And so to be able to spray pesticides, you have to have a certification. So is the Bobcat driver going to have the chemical certification to be able to spray the pesticides?
There again, my thinking would be the city would be licensed to be able to do that, and then they would instruct their worker about it. I've not come up on that question before, so I can't give you a direct answer, but I'm thinking the city would be licensed to spray this, and whichever worker they designated to do it, then, you know, he should be able to do it.
Well, that worker has to have a certification, so he'd have to have the certification, but he'd also have to drive the Bobcat, correct?
If the certification was required, then he would have to have it if they required it. Probably a lot of cities is probably be very lenient on that. That wouldn't concern them, but some it may concern them, and they may have to be certified to do it.
And so the pesticides, is it going to be just, you'll be able to control that, so it's not going to be going everywhere, correct?
No,
or the herbicide, because herbicide, something like Roundup, correct?
Right. It would spray a small spray right there where you're edging on each side of the sidewalk. It's not a big wide spray that would blow everywhere in the wind. It would spray right on where right behind where the brushes edge the sides of it. it would be very contained where it wouldn't be bothering no one else.
I still think one of the issues that you're having is you're not connected with the right people of these companies yet to talk about selling your or licensing your product to the manufacturers. Have you been to any of the larger like trade shows and stuff where you find these equipment companies at?
Yes, ma'am. I have went to, the cities have some trade shows every year. They have some in Perry, Georgia, which is a big fairground here. And they have all, it's mainly for cities, whether it's dump trucks, whether it's backhoes, whatever new equipment has come out for cities. And I've been there, I've walked around, I've talked with them, I've passed out brochures, just, told them what I had, but I'm still not getting the feedback. I've been to 2 or 3 trade shows like this. They have a big farm trade show also, I think maybe in Tifton, Georgia. I've been there a couple of times, and they have all sorts of equipment like Bobcat, Case, all these people there. I've went around, I've gave them brochures, I've spoken with them, but I'm still there again, like I think you said earlier, I'm not reaching the right guy to look at it. And so it's falling on deaf ears, I guess you might say. And this is where I'm at in life. I just can't make that crossover to the right people. And this is what I'm looking for, I guess, is
I'm
someone.
still a little bit confused on your ideal market. Is it John Deere, Case, Bobcat, or is it the cities and municipalities and the larger businesses?
My market to build is the dealers.
Okay.
The market to use the machine would be the cities.
Okay, perfect.
But my thinking is, if I can get the market that's building it, they know the market that needs it, and they know the people that can make the decisions.
Well, when you go to the trade shows, what you're mostly seeing there are the salespeople. And the salespeople aren't going to be the ones making the decision. What I would suggest is you find some time to talk to them, find out who's in their product development area, in their marketing. Those are the people who are going to be more likely to listen to what you have to say and consider your product, because they're the ones responsible for, continuing to develop their products and their attachments so that you're going to buy their products instead of the competitors. But at the trade show, those people aren't going to be the decision makers either. You just got to talk to them and network with them so that you can find out the names of those people in that organization.
That I have not done, and I need to do, and that's a good idea. I hadn't thought about that. I was speaking with them. I'm hoping that they would pass the word along, but they just passed me along.
Well, they're busy trying to make sales because a lot of their money depends on how much sales they make. But you need to look up and see in these companies, and some of you can find out by doing your own research, but you need to find out who's like in product development and marketing.
Okay, I'm going to another one. I think they're going to have another one in August in Brunswick, Georgia. And I get emails on it. So I'm thinking about going there to that one too. So that would be a point well taken.
And we've got a couple of suggestions in the chat, which I think are fantastic. Ron says the way that you're costing your product isn't the way you do things. You've got to look at scaling, and you got to look at your desired profit margin. And I think that is true as well. And he also says, unlike the movie, just because you build it doesn't mean they're going to come and buy it. You've got to focus on selling to the cities versus Bobcat and John Deere.
Sure.
But we need to remember, he's not making this, and he's not desiring to make this, right?
That's correct.
So that's not his target market. His market is the manufacturers of these implements.
Right.
You just got to get to the right people.
Yeah, and that's the point. And the target market is the manufacturing firms to manufacture the piece of equipment. And then from there, they would market it to the cities and municipalities and military bases from there. But getting to those manufacturers, that's where the disconnect is.
Right.
Glenn, and I'm not sure, why you haven't heard at least something back from a manufacturer. That's kind of puzzling. So that's either there's something that they have a reservation about, and they just maybe not sharing it with you.
And I wish they would. I'm open
Yeah.
for whatever. Just tell me. You look at what I have. You tell me why it'll work, why it won't work. I'm open for that.
Yeah.
What I need to improve on, tell me that. I'll do that. So, but when you get no feedback, I don't understand that. And someone has suggested to me a year or so ago that I should take mine and go out and show it to the cities. Well, that's a good point, but it creates a small problem. I have a small business that I run, and I've been here 41 years in business. I work from 9 to 5. It's really hard for me to leave my everyday business to go to different cities and show the machine. So that's kind of my reasoning for going to a manufacturer. Hopefully I could get it across to them. So
I think one of the issues that we have identified, and I think on target issues just haven't connected to the right people yet. I do have one concern about your video. When you show people what you have, you want to be careful that you show them what it will do and how it will benefit people and how it will draw consumers. You got to be careful not to give away too many of your secrets, because then I might develop my own little thing that is not quite what you have, but you're giving me ideas of stuff, and I'm saying, well, yeah, I could do that. And you mentioned about how my rollers will do this. You got to be careful not to give away all your secrets all up front. What you need to do is give them a taste of what it will do, why cities need it, how it will help. It would be great if you had some numbers about how much money it would save. I wouldn't talk about necessarily it's going to replace the low-level people. I would talk about it would save this many man hours, this much money, that they could be doing other things. Because even in a city, a smaller city, you've got X number of people to maintain the entire city. So you don't want to talk about replacing them. You want to talk about it would save this many man hours at a cost of this, approximately this much money, and how they could be doing other things. Because that's what you're trying to do in a smaller town or city. You're trying to make the most efficient use of your dollars.
right.
And if I can show that we can do this and it will allow your workers to go and take care of other things instead, that's where you're going to hit my sore spot, because I'm not going to be letting people go, because right now they got more to do than they know what to do, than they have people. So what we want to do is show how it's going to save man hours. So those man hours can be spent with other things.
That's correct.
But I think you just need to, when you get into the technical and you get into the negotiations of you're going to buy my product and manufacture it, then you can get into all your specific details. Like you gave us a very detailed report today. But if I'm somebody who's in product development somewhere, I'm a smart guy, I can sit here and think, well, he did that. How could I do that? Da, 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 da. So you give me the idea and you give me a lot of the obstacles you've already had to overcome. So it's got to be careful to not oversell and over tip your hand, so
Right.
that they don't need you because you've given them enough to think about that they can go create their own. Does that make sense what I'm trying to say?
It does. And that's something I need to think about. And you're very right. I guess, and like I said, I'm not selling to y'all. We're just discussing it back and forth. I hired a patent attorney to do the patent for me. It cost me a lot of money. I'm hoping that he done his job that I paid my money for to help keep these people from infringing on me. And I understand what you're saying. Well, I see as ideal. I might can change this and that and do the same thing. I'm hoping that he done what he should have done to keep these people from easing in on me. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Exactly. But I would craft a slightly different video for the initial presentation you make to someone. And I would focus on, here's this, see how many man hours it saves. This is your cost savings that you could have, and da 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 da. instead of all of the specific details about the rollers, that kind of thing. Save that one for a deeper conversation when you're in negotiations or something of that nature. But you need a little bit slicker version that's more of your, to get the interest, you know, the taste. And a lot of them are wanting to see it and what it will do, and talk about the savings and that kind of thing, because they're going to need to know how they can sell it. You know, they need to know that they're going to have a market, and this is how they need to see that if I spend the time and effort and money to invest in this and to buy this, create this, that there is a return down the road as well.
Okay, I have something. I had a friend that kind of, I'm not really a real good numbers guy, so I'm going to show you something a friend come up with me that calculated some numbers. I asked the city guy that's over the sidewalks and stuff, how many times you do clean the sidewalks and how long does it take you and all this stuff. I asked him for our local, okay? And I had a friend that kindly, I don't know if you can you see this right here?
Higher. Closer.
Okay. Can you see it?
I can't really. Can any of the rest of you see it?
Okay. I didn't know if that.
5 men times 100 hours to clear 29 miles of sidewalk.
That's the kind of stuff that you need to be talking about in terms of what your equipment will do, because nobody ever, like Jesse said, and even Ron said in the chat, you never want to talk about replacing low-income people, low-skilled worker people, because that's not a favorable thing to talk about. But instead, you tell me how I can save man hours that could be spent in other ways. You talk about how I can save time. That's something we can talk about.
You show them a return on investment. You have to have that.
Right. And this here has the numbers about return on investment for the workers and with the machine and everything. And so that's, and I would, if I can catch myself, I'm not replacing workers. I'm letting them be able to put workers that would normally do this in other areas to work and still get this job done faster. So
Glenn, if I was a public works director in a municipality, and that's the department that this falls under, I would look at this product and say, okay, with your estimate of 5 workers, I could reallocate those resources to some other part of the municipality, because that, you know, those workers do a multitude of things. They just don't do landscaping and yard maintenance. They do many, many different things.
that's correct.
And that's how I would look at this, you know, but first I've got to have your equipment. Let me ask you, there was a question I was going to ask you earlier. How is there a demand for your product?
If I feel like they are, if the person that's in charge, if they know it was available,
Okay.
I think there would be a tremendous need for, if they know it was available, and say if one of the manufacturers took it to them, showed them, said this is what it'll do, I think that it would be. And one thing more that I've done was I got my wife to help me, and we sat down and we sent a packet of information to, I want to say 40 or 50 cities in Georgia and Alabama. We put a brochure in there. I put a reply card in there. Like, if this was available, would you be interested? Just, you know, I just put a questionnaire in there for them to reply back to me. You know, would you be not interested at all or whatever? And we sent them to 40 or 50 of the bigger cities, Savannah, Georgia, Atlanta, Valdosta. I did not get one reply. And this was and I tried to find in each area, I would pull up the cities and find out who was over that department. And that's who I sent it to. I did not get one reply. So that's just another way I tried, but I didn't get no reply.
Well, what does that tell you, Glenn?
They throwed it in the garbage. They get too much mail. I don't know.
But I mean, manufacturers didn't reply, and then your end user, which is the municipalities,
Right.
they didn't reply either.
And I don't know why. In my view, if you invented this, it's still something that's needed. Not because I've done it. It's because it's available to be used. But I'm not making no headway.
Did you reach out to any of the tool manufacturers like Black & Decker, Still? Did you reach out to any of those?
I didn't figure that would even be in their their range of looking at something.
Well,
I mean, that's just my thinking, you know. I'm open for suggestions, but
yeah, but there's something that when you get no response, then you have to look at the product and say, well, either I'm packaging it wrong, I'm marketing it wrong, or there's something about it that you know the end user, which is the municipalities, are just they're not wanting it or not considering it.
Or it's in how you're packaging and who you're packaging to, because you said something very relevant now. I get emails all the time about, hey, we want to show you this software. We want to show you this. You can use this in your class. And you know what? I'm a busy person. Click, move on. Click, move on. You are sending them something that they can very easily put on their desk or in their trash can because they don't have time to deal with it. You need to find the right people and you need some conversation with them, because if you are trying to find out what you need to do or change about your product, they're going to be able to help you. But you know, you give me a very easy out. You've handed me something. There's no response because I don't have to. I don't have to answer you. I don't have to do something about it. You know, I don't have to, because right now I do have those people with shovels.
right.
So there's no sense of urgency for me to get back to you. So I think you're going to have to change how you're getting to these people and what you're asking of them. Because if you're just asking, hey, let me know what you think. Now, if you gave me a little card to send back or something that, you know, I didn't have to pay for, whatever. But I think you need to just sit and talk with some of these folks. That's why you need to find out the main people of these groups and make appointments to go and speak with them. And I get you have a business to run, but if you want to sell this, somebody's going to have to put in the legwork. But as long as you're not in front of me, you're not a sense of urgency for me.
Okay. And on the reply card, I did put stamps on them, so there was no out of cost. You just fill it out and drop it in the mail. I tried to think everything ahead of time, but like I said, it didn't do nothing, but I tried to think of that. So
yeah, but I think you need to take what we were talking about before about the how many man hours you saved me, like you did the calculations, and create a chart that says of a city this size, this is the potential savings. Of a city this size, look at how much more potential it could be, because the bigger my city, the more roads I'm going to have to maintain, right?
that's right.
So you need to make it where I can see my benefit of spending my time talking to you or looking at this product. You got to tell me why I need to talk to you.
Okay.
So we're almost out of time. Glenn, I think you have a great prototype. I think it's going to need a little bit of work. And most entrepreneurs along the way would say that many doors shut. Just keep going until you find the right door.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Keep going until you find the right door. Just because one person said no or didn't respond doesn't mean the next person won't. So I'm going to take the last question for today. How can this community help you? What can we do to help, Glenn?
If you could help me, if you know someone that could help me further it along, know some contacts of people that I could contact and talk, like she said, one-on-one, talk with them. If the phone conversation done good, I could go wherever I needed to go to meet this person. If I could just, you know, somehow help me open the door somewhere to meet the right people. That's what I need. And also I would like to ask the question of the ones that have spoken, whatever, do and you can give me honest opinion, it won't matter. I mean, do you feel like I have something that's worth keep on pursuing, or do you think it's something I should just throw to the side and move on? I mean, what are y'all's thoughts about what we've talked about today and what I have?
I personally think you need to have conversations with people in product development of the kind of companies that would manufacture and sell this product to have that, be able to make that decision for yourself. But until you have conversations with them, I don't think you're really can make that a good decision. I would strongly encourage you to start thinking about how you could scale this down a little bit to make a smaller, more convenient model that could be used by landscapers and for homeowners. I think that is huge potential if it can do some things that your existing model can do, not just edge it, but edge it and clean it up kind of thing. Because I don't care how often I have to empty the bag on the back. I do that now when I cut grass. But it's worth it to me not to have to pick it up and rake. But that's just my opinion. Next.
So we have, Athena also mentioned in the chat box to contact your local small business center to see if they could help with your selling and for sales and marketing.
Okay.
And to piggyback off of what Dean Burns said, I do agree that you need to get in touch with the right person. I think they could provide insight. I would absolutely be interested in a product as a homeowner if it was a smaller scale version. So I do think that's something that you should think about.
Okay.
And maybe instead of spraying the pesticides, just to let it be one attachment for edging and for sweeping. And again, the bag part, you know, you're accustomed to emptying your lawn bag anyway. And if it was something that was make it easy for a person to attach it or to use it, I don't think that would be an issue at all as far as the bagging component.
Okay. All right. Someone else?
Glenn, I wish you much success with your product. I truly do. And I think Lori had it. I mean, if you feel passionate about your product, then you got to continue on. Knocking on doors. I mean, you may have to wear out several pairs of shoes, you know, to get to the right door, but don't just limit yourself to manufacturers. Go outside and maybe you can open, maybe someone has an opportunity to open a door for you. Maybe someone else that you need an intermediary to open the right doors. But as far as municipalities, their budgets are already approved for the next year. All of them. In fact, you know, they're just approving them now. So whatever they're looking at for the following year, those won't be discussed until probably early January. So you're kind of at a very, very good moment where you can engage your product and market your product to the right manufacturer that could then in turn, you know, build it and then advertise it to municipalities. But I wouldn't stop. I mean, if you feel passionate about it, continue on.
I do. I feel like there again, it don't matter who invented it. I feel like it's something that's needed.
Yeah.
And I do feel like the manufacturer would benefit. I would, and the person that's using it every day would benefit the most. I mean, for what it'll do for them. I think it won't be like a one-sided thing. Everybody would do good, I think. And that's what
of course.
That's what.
Yep.
Well, Glenn, we really thank you. Glad you could join us. I hope you come back and be part of our audience. Come back in the future and let us know how things are going. If I can be of any assistance, you have my cell number, my work number, as well as my email. I'd be delighted to help in any way that I could. I invite everybody to come back. We'll be back in 2 weeks on June the 30th. I hope to see everybody there. I hope you guys have a great day. Go out and enjoy the beautiful weather. See you next time.
Thanks a lot. Thank you for your time, each one of you.